She said, "We were never official, so it's not cheating. When I found the lingerie pics, she sent another guy, so I took back my key and blocked her. Now everyone knows she's a liar, and she's quietly falling apart." Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I used to think 8 months was too soon to give someone a house key, but Cassie had a way of making ordinary caution feel like distrust. She said it on our third date while I was walking her to her rideshare. "You're different, Nate. You actually listen." I'd heard that line before, but this time it sounded sincere and I wanted to believe it. Believing became a habit. I believed her when she said her ex was just spiritual baggage and that the late-night coffee they grabbed was closure, nothing more. I believed her when my bank app buzzed and she joked that the mysterious $60 Venmo request for emergency nails was a test to see if I noticed. I paid it anyway. She drifted into my life the way warm air drifts through an open window. One weekend, she was leaving mascara in my bathroom. The next, she was curled on my sofa sending selfies to her mother in my hoodie. I never asked for rent. She offered to cook instead and mostly ordered takeout. I covered the bill without thinking, because it felt good to be needed. My friends said she was flirty. I called it friendly. When she posted poolside photos, arched back, strap off one shoulder, I scrolled past the fire emoji comments from guys I'd never heard of and told myself it was modern life. Labels were for jars, Cassie liked to joke. "As soon as we stamp a word on this, it'll feel heavy," she said one night, tracing the rim of her wine glass. "Let's just be." I'd already introduced her as my girlfriend at my sister's barbecue, but I swallowed that detail and nodded. I figured she'd catch up. Red flags flapped, but softly. She disappeared once for an entire evening, answering my texts at 2 a.m. with, "Sorry, phone died." Girls' night ran late. The next morning, I replaced the battery in her old iPhone and handed it over like a peace offering. She kissed my cheek and said, "You're a lifesaver," which sounded close enough to thanks. When her alternator failed, I called a buddy at the shop and got her a deal. She hugged me in the parking lot and whispered, "No one's ever taken care of me like this." Those words lit a fuse of pride I didn't realize could burn down trust. The same night, as we split fries on my couch, she asked, "Hypothetically, would it bother you if I grabbed drinks with an ex?" Pure closure. Some guys get weird. I laughed too loudly and said I wasn't some insecure high schooler. She smiled, satisfied, and changed the subject to vacation plans. That was Cassie's talent. She made every concession feel like confidence, every boundary feel like paranoia. I kept leaning in, thinking commitment meant silence about little worries. I never imagined silence would become my only defense. 2 Fridays later, I was finishing a late shift when Cal from accounting slapped his phone onto my desk. "Dude, isn't that Cassie?" he asked. The screen showed an Instagram story, green circles close friends, of a hotel bathroom. Cassie stood in the mirror, silk robe half open, someone else's tattooed forearm holding the phone. Caption, "Healing energy, grateful heart." I stared until the clip replayed. My first thought wasn't anger. It was how strange the robe looked. Hotel white instead of my navy cotton. I drove home on autopilot, the dashboard clock ticking louder than the engine. At my place, her sneakers were by the door, but the apartment felt vacant. She texted at midnight, "Hey babe, can we talk tomorrow? Long day, crashing at Lana's." I replied, "Sure," and slept on the couch even though the bed was free. Saturday morning, I walked to her apartment with the spare key in an envelope. She answered wearing my vintage concert tee like a trophy. "Morning," she said, casual, eyes flicking to the envelope. "Everything okay?" "I saw your story," I said. She blinked, then gave a tiny shrug. "Oh, that. You were with him last night, weren't you? So what if I was?" She leaned on the doorframe as if boredom proved innocence. "I've been exclusive with you for 8 months. You stay at my place more than your own. You have my key." "Nate, we were never official," she said, tone patient enough to teach preschool. "You can't cheat if no one used the word relationship." I held up the envelope. "You called me your boyfriend at brunch with your mom. It was a label to make her happy. You got too attached, that's on you." She crossed her arms, the hem of my shirt touching bare thighs that weren't mine to admire anymore. I resisted the urge to laugh. "You wore that shirt to bed the night you said you loved how safe you felt. Safe is different from serious." "Not to me." She rolled her eyes. You're overreacting. It was just a night. We never said we were exclusive. I said it every day by choosing you. I placed the envelope in her open palm. Inside, along with the key, was a note that simply read, "Please do not return." She opened it, mouth parting. You're really doing this? One misunderstanding and you ghost. I'm not ghosting. I'm leaving. I stepped back into the hallway. Take care, Cassie. Her voice followed me down the stairs, first amused, then sharp. You'll regret this when you calm down. Outside, the air smelled like rain and freedom. I muted her number before I reached the street. I didn't slam any doors or post a cryptic status. I just walked until my legs hurt, making space where her excuses used to live. The first thing I noticed after walking away was how quiet everything became. Not just the notifications. I'd muted her, unfollowed, blocked, cleared the message threads, but the internal noise too. No more second-guessing myself. No more decoding half-truths. No more pretending it was okay to be halfway chosen. That weekend, I stayed offline. I cleaned out my apartment like it was haunted. Cassie had left traces everywhere. A hairbrush in the drawer, 3 cans of her favorite seltzer in the fridge, her handwritten grocery list still magnetized to my freezer door. Almond milk, sea salt chips, mascara. I tossed it all. Not in a fit of rage, just methodically, deliberately. The way you take off a cast after too long, realizing your skin underneath can finally breathe. Monday came, and with it, the ripples. Cal from work slid into my cubicle during lunch. Dude, you okay? He asked. I'm good. I mean, I didn't know it was like that with you too. You kept it pretty low-key. Yeah, I said. Turns out, so did she. He nodded slowly. She's been posting a lot. Weird captions. One was like, when the dust settles, the real ones remain. Another was just a photo of some crystals and her legs. Okay. He hesitated. People are asking questions. I'm not answering them. And I didn't. Not when her friend Alexa messaged me a couple days later with, Cassie's been crying. She didn't mean to hurt you. It was just a weird time for her. Not when my cousin texted, did you and Cassie break up or something? She just liked all my stories at once and hasn't done that in months. I said nothing. I didn't post anything, either. No gym mirror selfies. No stories of me out with friends. I wasn't on some revenge arc or trying to win a breakup. I just wanted my peace back. And for the first time in months, I had it. That Friday, I went to the park and sat alone for an hour watching some kids play basketball. One of them was wearing the same jersey I had when I was 15. I thought about who I'd been back then. Idealistic, soft-spoken, convinced that love was about proving yourself until someone finally saw you. I don't think that kid would have left Cassie. I think he'd have begged for an explanation, tried to fix things, maybe even apologized for being unclear about exclusivity. But I wasn't that kid anymore. The following week, things shifted again, just not in my direction. One of Cassie's exes, a guy named Derek I only knew by name, posted a screenshot on his story. A DM from Cassie, timestamped 2 days after I walked away. I miss how calm you were. Everyone else is just so cold. Can we talk? I've grown since last time. You once said I was the one that got away. Underneath, Derek had written, y'all warned me. I didn't listen. Never again. I didn't share it. I didn't need to, but others did. Screenshots floated into my DMs from people I hadn't heard from in months. Bro, isn't this your girl? Damn, she's on a tour. Apparently, the guy from the hotel story had already cut her off. She tried to pass it off as a fling that meant nothing. But he posted a photo of his new girlfriend the next weekend with the caption, no drama, just real love. Cassie didn't post for 3 days after that. Then came the desperation texts. I'd blocked her number, but she used another one. Probably a burner. Wednesday, 9:13 p.m. Hey, just wanted to talk. Can we meet? I owe you an apology. Thursday, 12:41 a.m. I didn't realize how much you mattered until you left. I was scared, Nate. I self-sabotage. I'm working on it. Friday, 7:07 p.m. You're really not going to say anything? After everything we were? No response. I didn't need closure from the person who tore things open. The last message came Sunday afternoon, right as I was helping my sister carry some chairs into her backyard for a family cookout. Sunday, 2:02 p.m. It's actually disturbing how cold you turned out to be. You didn't even try to talk to me. Maybe if you had any emotional depth, we could have worked through it. I guess I was dating a coward. I blocked that number too. Later that night, sitting under my sister's string lights with a plate of ribs and a dog sleeping on my feet, I realized I hadn't thought about Cassie for more than 5 minutes all weekend. And even then, it was just to shake my head and smile. She could call me cold, but silence isn't cruelty. Sometimes it's survival. 2 more weeks passed. By then, Cassie's name barely came up. But when it did, it was never from me. People started seeing the full picture without my help. At work, Kel pulled me aside during lunch again. "So, remember that guy she was with at the hotel? The tattooed arm? Yeah. He's been bragging about how he never actually dated her. Said she was clingy. Kept trying to spend the night, and he told her to go home." I didn't react. Kel waited for something. A smile, a jab, some petty victory. But I just took another bite of my sandwich. Across town, word was traveling fast. Cassie's carefully curated image, the chill, artsy, free-spirited girl, was cracking. People she used to go out with were saying things like, "Yeah, she kind of did that to me too," or "She's always keeping backups." Even the ones who'd blindly defended her at first were going quiet. She wasn't just losing relationships. She was losing credibility. And then came the group chat fallout. Alexa, her self-proclaimed best friend, posted a long vent in one of the mutual friend group stories. It was vague, but not really. "It's exhausting being friends with someone who lies to everyone, plays victim, and uses people for attention. Sometimes people grow by burning every bridge they've ever walked on." A bunch of people reacted with clapping emojis. Someone replied, "We all know who this is." Cassie tried to recover. She posted a throwback pic of her and Alexa with the caption, "Sisters fight. Real ones stay." But no one commented. No one reposted. It just sat there like a dying leaf on a dead tree. Then she started messaging people I hadn't spoken to in months. Lauren, a friend of my cousin's, sent me screenshots. Cassie had reached out to her asking how I was, if I seemed open to reconnecting, if I'd said anything about her. Lauren responded, "You really messed up. Maybe just let him live in peace." Cassie replied, "I didn't cheat. We weren't exclusive. This whole thing is so blown out of proportion." It was the same line. Like a script she couldn't stop reading from, even when the audience had left. I didn't answer any of it. I had nothing left to say. But Cassie clearly wasn't done. The final unraveling came one night at a mutual friend's birthday party. Someone I hadn't seen in months, but who still liked me enough to invite me. It was a rooftop thing. Nothing fancy. Beers, cheap wine, neon lights strung across patio furniture. I showed up late, wearing the same leather jacket Cassie once said made me look like a divorced rock star in the best way. I remembered laughing when she said it. Now, it just felt like armor. I was catching up with some old friends when I saw her across the roof. Cassie, alone. She looked thinner than I remembered. Hair curled too precisely. Makeup heavy like she was trying to paint over regret. Her smile flickered whenever people looked away. I turned back to my drink, said nothing. About half an hour in, she approached. Everyone else suddenly got very interested in their phones. "Hey," she said. I met her eyes. "Cassie, you look good. Thanks." She looked around, then leaned in slightly. "Can we talk? Just for a second?" I nodded, motioned toward the far side of the patio. She walked like someone trying not to wobble in heels they regretted choosing. Once we reached the railing, she sighed like she'd just survived a war. I feel like things ended without a real conversation," she said. "And I think about it every day." I didn't reply. "I know I messed up," she continued. "I didn't handle it well, but it wasn't cheating. You never said the word exclusive." I finally looked at her. "You're still saying that?" She blinked. "I mean, it's true, isn't it? I thought we were figuring things out. You never actually said, you wore my hoodie to sleep at my apartment 5 nights a week. You kept your makeup in my bathroom drawer. You called me your boyfriend in front of your mom." "I panicked, Nate," she said. "I didn't know what I wanted. And then you just left. No conversation. No explanation. It hurt. You said we weren't official. So I took your word for it." She stared at me, mouth slightly open, like she couldn't believe I was using her words against her. "I didn't think you'd just walk away," she whispered. "I know. You thought I'd stick around, wait it out, let you keep your options open. You thought I'd fight to prove I was worthy of being chosen." Silence. Even the music from the party felt far away. "But I'm not here to compete for someone who thinks loyalty is optional." Cassie's voice cracked. I was stupid, Nate. I was scared. You were the only one who ever really saw me. No, I just looked past what you showed everyone else. She tried to laugh. So what? You just moved on. Like I'm nothing. I didn't move on like you're nothing. I moved on because you treated me like I was. I started walking away. Nate, I paused, turned back. You once said we were never official, I said. So why are you acting like I owe you a goodbye? Her mouth opened, then closed. No words came out. She didn't follow me back toward the party. She didn't say another word. I rejoined the group. Someone handed me a drink, and the conversation picked up like nothing had happened. She left 10 minutes later. No one noticed. After that night, I didn't hear from Cassie again directly. Not for a while. But that didn't mean she was done. She just changed tactics. It started with the subtweets. The kind you recognize instantly, even when your name's not on them. Funny how some people pretend to be emotionally mature until they're held accountable. Silence doesn't equal peace. Sometimes it's just cowardice in a nice suit. Some men are only capable of love when it's convenient. I hope they find healing, but far away from me. A few of my friends sent them to me, asking if I wanted them to report the posts. I told them not to bother. Then the mutual friends she hadn't burned started reaching out, one by one. Alexa, the same girl who'd once defended Cassie endlessly, called me on a random Tuesday night. I'm sorry, she blurted out before I even said hello. For what? For ever vouching for her. For telling people you just ghosted her. I didn't know everything, and when I found out, I felt like a complete idiot. You don't owe me anything, I said. No, but I still want to say it. She's been spinning the story like you blindsided her, like you overreacted to one innocent misunderstanding. But we all saw the screenshots. We saw how she moved after. It's just, yeah, I get it now. Thanks, I said simply. That means something. A few days later, I bumped into Danielle, another mutual friend, at a local bar. She looked at me like I was some urban legend. I gotta say, she said, you're handling this better than anyone expected. Most guys would have blown up her whole life. I didn't need to, I told her. She's doing a pretty good job of that on her own. Apparently, Cassie had started reinventing herself again. Rebranding, basically. She deleted most of her old posts and began sharing spiritual quotes, minimalist aesthetic photos, and captions like, healing isn't linear, and I'm not perfect. But the engagement was dead. No comments. No likes. No echo chamber left. Even the people who used to hype her up had gone quiet. When you exhaust everyone's empathy, all you have left is yourself, and she wasn't used to that. The final message came a week after the rooftop party. From an unfamiliar number. I know you probably won't read this, but I just want to say I never meant for things to end like they did. I genuinely cared about you. I was just in a bad place emotionally, and I didn't know how to communicate that. You were stable and kind, and I took you for granted. I wish I could undo it. If you ever want to talk, even just as friends, I'd really like to hear how you've been. I stared at the screen for a moment. Then, without a word, I blocked the number and put my phone face down. Because here's the thing. People always say they didn't mean to hurt you. That they were scared, confused, lost. But somehow, in the middle of all that fear and confusion, they still managed to make 1,000 selfish choices. All of them aimed away from you. They didn't trip and fall into betrayal. They walked there. They ran. And when they got caught, they called it a misunderstanding. The truth is, I had loved her. Quietly, fully, without fine print. And she had loved being loved. Not me, just the way I made her feel. But that's not real love. That's consumption. And I was done being consumed. Now, when I looked around my apartment, no more makeup in the bathroom, no more passive-aggressive grocery lists, no more pretending not to notice who she texted after midnight. I didn't feel lonely. I felt weightless. Some losses don't leave holes. They leave room. About 3 months after Cassie's last desperate messages, I got an invite to a wedding. My friend Layla was getting married. She and I had gotten closer recently, especially after I helped her out with a video project when she cut ties with Cassie. I didn't know if Cassie would be there, but by then, I didn't care either way. I had moved on, not just from her, but from everything tied to that chaotic version of my life. I'd started my own creative agency, low profile, but already getting real traction. I'd moved into a new place that was quiet, clean, and actually felt like home. I had a steady circle of real friends now, and even someone I was slowly getting to know. Aaron, an architect who hated Instagram and preferred bookstores over brunches. So I went. The wedding was beautiful, intimate, elegant, everything Cassie used to call boring. About halfway through the reception, I saw her. She wasn't glowing anymore. She looked thinner, stressed, like she hadn't been sleeping much. The hair and makeup were still technically perfect, but the aura was cracked. The fakeness had lost its shine. She was standing alone near the bar, clutching a drink she wasn't really drinking. When she saw me, her face froze. Then she smiled, too wide, too eager. She made her way over. "Hey, wow, I didn't know you'd be here," she said, brushing her hair behind her ear like she used to when she was nervous. "You look different." "I am," I said simply. She blinked. "You changed your hair, and you're dressing sharper now." I didn't reply. Just took a sip of water and waited. She laughed nervously. "I've been meaning to reach out. Things got complicated. You know how crazy everything got. I wasn't in a good place back then." I looked at her calmly. "And now?" Her smile faltered. "I'm working on it. Therapy. Journaling. I'm trying to realign." I nodded slightly, like I was listening to someone pitch a startup I had zero interest in. Then she lowered her voice. "I miss you. I was stupid. What I had with you, it was real. That guy, Colt, he was just fake. Immature. He ended up moving to Miami with some fashion student. I found out through a TikTok comment. Can you believe that?" I didn't flinch. "Yeah, I can." She stepped a little closer. I thought I wanted excitement. But excitement doesn't keep you grounded when you're falling apart." I paused for a beat, then said, "You called me safe. Like it was a flaw." "I know," she said, biting her lip. "I was so wrong. You were the only person who actually saw me. Who cared? I miss that. I miss you." She waited, expecting a soft spot. A crack. There was none. I smiled politely. "Cassie, I'm not angry anymore. But I'm not available anymore, either." Her eyes widened. "Are you seeing someone?" I didn't answer right away. I just glanced across the room, where Aaron was laughing with Layla by the dessert table, looking effortlessly at peace. Cassie followed my gaze. Her face dropped. "You replaced me?" she said, voice strained. "No," I said. "You removed yourself." Her breath caught. I added, "You taught me what I don't want." That lesson stuck. Her tone shifted, desperate now, not seductive. "Please, can we just talk? One night. Closure. Coffee. Anything." I shook my head gently. "I've closed that chapter. You just didn't notice until the book was already shelved." She blinked rapidly. "I was your person." "No," I said firmly. "You were a loud chapter in a quiet story. But it ends here." And with that, I walked away. She didn't follow. She just stood there, holding her untouched drink, in a room full of people who no longer saw her the way she wanted them to. Aaron looked up and smiled as I rejoined her. I smiled back, genuinely. No weight in my chest, no anger in my gut. Just clarity. Cassie wasn't the one that got away. She was the one I escaped from. And nothing ever felt safer than that. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.